If it wasn't so tragically effective, the Narcissist's guilt-tripping game would actually be hilarious. In this video, I'm going to show you how they present facts. I will show you how to actually reframe facts based on their own frame to show you just how stupid it is. And I will share with you 4 simple and powerful questions that allow you to enter their game and destroy it from the inside. Finally, I'm going to show you what actually is happening. And once you see the real situation, there's a high likelihood that this will no longer be effective on you at all. The way they present things is really simplistic. It's saying we have a situation now that is a problem, and there's a future solution which is much better, and to get to the much better solution, all we have to do is for you to do what I ask you to. If you don't do what I tell you, that means that you don't want to have a good future, and you want to have a bad situation now, which means that you are a bad person, and it's your fault if I have a problem now. So we'll keep the same 2 elements, now and the future. We're just going to add a bit of nuance to this. Instead of being a monolith of now bad, future good, we'll start seeing who is involved, the 2 people. In the current situation, both people have advantages and disadvantages, and the same applies to the future. The narcissist's trick is to only focus on what their disadvantages are currently, and what advantages they would have in the future. And they also operate with some form of transfer where they try to make their problems become your problems. They'll do this by playing your empathy, by trying to make you suffer for them, by trying to elicit these unpleasant feelings so that you have a huge incentive to make some form of change. And in the future, they'll do the same thing. They will try to link their benefits to your benefits. So you might feel happy for them, or feel good for them, or feel that whatever you're sacrificing is worthwhile because overall the situation as a whole is better than it would be otherwise. This is one of the ways that they manipulate people who have high levels of empathy. But as usual in their calculation, they are missing out you. They don't care about you. They don't care about how things might be better or worse for you. If they ask you to help them out financially, for instance, that creates a financial problem for you. They will say that overall the benefits outweigh the negatives. But of course they are the ones reaping the benefits and you are the one paying the cost. So of course it works better for them from their point of view, and your point of view is irrelevant. One of the most effective ways to not be manipulated is observe when they are trying to make their problem become your problem, and figure out how you can actually impose healthy boundaries so this is not the case. If you take their problem on as being yours, of course you're going to want to solve it. But remember that their problem is theirs, and your problems are yours. One of the tricks they use is to pretend that there is only one solution for the problem, and that solution comes from you. So if you don't help them out, then they are stuck with the problem. The first question you can ask them is, let's imagine I wasn't able to help you out. What would you do then? It sometimes is possible that you're not able to help someone out, financially, emotionally, or with time, because of other priorities. Of course they don't like that, but that's a separate question. So let's imagine that you can't help them out. Then what do? If they say that they stay stuck with the problem, then maybe respect their choice to stay stuck with the problem. Logically, there would be some other options that they would be able to follow, but if they don't want to find alternatives, then maybe consider that that's a choice. Not that there are no alternatives out in the world, but they don't actually want alternatives. If you are motivated to solve a problem, you will figure out different scenarios. Someone who pretends there is only one scenario might be incompetent, but might also be a manipulator. So ask the question, let's imagine that I couldn't help you. What would you do? And you might say, I'm not sure if I can. I'll think about it, I'll look into it, I'll see if it's possible, but I need to understand what you would do if I can't help you. Number 2, if they continue to claim that there is only one solution that comes from you, you can then point out the dynamic this creates. I'm sorry, I would feel that that makes you dependent on me, and I'm not comfortable with that. This doesn't sound sustainable or healthy. By starting out by saying, I'm sorry, you remove some of the tension. You're then referring to your disadvantages. I'm not comfortable. If I do that, I won't be comfortable. You're basically attracting the focus back onto you and how you feel about what they're asking. They want, of course, all of the focus on getting their problems solved. But you have every right to say, well, I'm also involved in this. I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable. Of course, before you make any change in a dynamic with a toxic person, remember that they can harm you sometimes physically, emotionally, financially, and also with reputation. Please assess the level of danger you have and try to preempt any damage they can do so you don't get harmed. The third answer you can give actually ties in the negatives that both of you would have if something goes wrong in the future. And that might be saying, I'm really sorry. It's possible that you won't be able to pay me back, or you won't be able to maintain a healthy relationship after this. And if that happens, then I feel that would damage our relationship. So I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm terribly sorry. I'm not willing to take that risk. If you value a relationship over short-term help, then you're willing to take on some level of suffering, some level of burden to maintain the relationship. If someone isn't willing to do that, maybe they don't actually value the relationship. Maybe they value your money or your time or your energy more than they do the relationship. And if you deprive them of it, that simply means they're going to find a supply somewhere else. So it's up to you to figure out if you want to be in a relationship with some form of vampire, or if you'd rather be in a relationship that might be healthy and sustainable. Then the next question concerns the future. So you have a timeline and you have a problem and they want you to jump over the problem. And you think, it's probably just a one-off, sure, I'll help you out. And once you help them out, then another problem occurs. This usually is the case. So you jump over that one. And then another problem occurs. And you basically keep jumping. This is the case if somebody needs help paying their rent, for instance. Oh, my rent is terrible, it's so difficult, maybe you can help me out. Like, sure I can. But what's going to happen afterwards? What will happen next month? Because if we get into a dynamic where I try to solve your problem and the problem occurs again, of course I want to solve it again and again. And that will keep going on into the future. So one of the questions here might simply be, if the problem will come to an end at one point, I'd rather know about it now. And let's talk about what is actually going to be happening in the future, because maybe this is where the real problem lies. Or maybe the problem lies with your inability to solve your problems on your own and be independent and not come to the table with problems. Maybe that's what needs to be talked about. And maybe short-term fixes are not the real issue. Maybe there's a deeper psychological issue. If someone has difficulties walking, they go and see a doctor. If someone has difficulties functioning in society, maybe they go and see a psychotherapist. But if someone can't walk and doesn't see a doctor, maybe they don't want to solve the problem. So far we've seen how you enter the argument and you destroy it from the inside. Instead of now bad, future good, we say, now there are two people. Both people have advantages and disadvantages. In the future, there are two people. Both have advantages and disadvantages. Sure, we're talking about your current disadvantages and your future advantages, but how about we don't forget me and my advantages and disadvantages now and my advantages and disadvantages in the future? Because maybe you're asking me to give up my current advantages and I don't even know if I will be having advantages in the future. All of this for your benefit, where you are gaining in the future. But now I want to reframe and I want to show you exactly the game that is being played. So let's start again. We have the future, there is you, there's a narcissist in both situations. We remember the narcissist claims that they've got problems and they want a better situation in the future. What is really going on is that right now they have significant advantages. And the future is simply a pretext. Because right now, you are willing to take some of your advantages and give them to them. You're already transferring what they want. You're already giving them what they want. The future is just a pretext. The future is just an excuse to make you give them what they want. And the disadvantages they have, they don't exist. It's just an excuse. If they're afraid that they can't pay their rent and they make you pay their rent, they don't care about paying their rent. If they really cared about paying their rent, they would find a sustainable solution on their own. They wouldn't be coming to you for a solution. They're not acting like people who actually want to change something. Right now is working perfectly for them. And the only thing that might change is if you stop playing their game, they're going to go and find someone else to abuse. That's all that's happening. The future they are selling you is purely in your head, to make you act the way they want you to act. But there is a better future for you. And the better future for you is the future where you eliminate part of the downside and you stop making their problems your problems, and you eliminate the downside by giving their problems back to them, letting go of it. It's their choice. If they don't want to have a job to pay the rent, you can respect their choice, even though you regret it. If they end up in the street, you can respect their choice, even though you regret it. If they want to believe that the only solution in the entire universe is you can respect their choice and you can regret it. Even if this were the case, that would be too much of a burden for you to carry. And it probably isn't the case, and probably they don't want things to be any different. They claim they do, but they don't act that way. So consider that right now is the situation that they want, and nothing is changing. The only reason why something would change would be if you change something. And remember that if you put a healthy boundary and they can no longer get their supply, they will simply go and look for someone else. And they will be trying to get that person to give them what they are looking for, using the same manipulation tools and techniques. The best thing you can do is cut off this dynamic. And how do you do this? Well, I suggest when the problems occur and they come to you with a solution which is only you, use this reframe. Take a deep breath, take a step back, use the reframe, and ask some of these questions. In all situations, even with a healthy person, these are perfectly valid questions to ask. What are the alternatives? What will happen if? I'm sorry, I'm concerned, I'm not comfortable. And if I do this, where does this bring us down the line? Use your ability to anticipate and foresee what might happen, and you can see what they tell you. If what they tell you is not credible, then don't believe it. And if it is credible, then you might want to check and see if it works. But you want to have some form of timeline. When you date someone, you want to have some idea of where it's going. Otherwise, you risk throwing a few years down the drain simply because you didn't want to project at all. That might not be doing you a favor. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you for watching.